Let's talk. Alright, so one of our next topics is right up Paula and Brian's alley. And it's aid to foreign countries that hate us. Should we give aid to foreign countries that hate us? I think we know who put it up on our wall, so we're going to let her answer it. Paula.
Absolutely not. Not a dime. If you hate us, why am I giving you money? Sort of like my ex. I'm going to take you to dinner and then you're going to cheat on me. I don't think so. If I'm going to give somebody money and they punch me in the stomach, am I going to give them money again? I think not. We give billions of dollars to countries that hate us, that would like nothing other than to see the death of America and all things Western. And we're giving them money. That needs to stop immediately. Let's take that money and spend it in our country to help our people.
Okay. Brian, you usually follow each other. I'm going to continue on with that winning pattern.
Okay. I will actually, again, sorry to depress you, Lisa, but I have to agree, but, there is a but, agree, but with an asterisk, and the asterisk is that if there is an emergency, then it's not only about whether the country hates us or not, it kind of becomes also about who we are. So, on the one hand, if there's no emergency and the country hates us, sure, I agree, the hell with them. On the other hand, even Proverbs says, if your enemy is hungry, feed him, and if he is thirsty, give him something to drink, thereby you will heap burning coals on his head.
I don't think Proverbs ever met Ahmadinejad, Brian. Oh, and by the way, I don't think you like that much.
No, we lost Brian for a minute there. So, I'm going to get a response from Jenny in the meantime. Jenny, should we give foreign aid to countries that hate us?
Well, there's two situations in my mind. There's two situations when we give foreign aid. There's the situation when there's an emergency, an earthquake, flood, tsunami, whatever. In that case, yes, we are morally obligated to give that foreign aid. If we can, we and everyone else in the entire world, every other country in the entire world is obligated to give whatever aid they can. That's just the moral thing to do. Then there's the situation in which, as Brian put it, there's no emergency. It's just business as usual. And to my thinking right now, we're a broke nation. Again, we need to keep our money in here until we are no longer broke. And frankly, that means that we really shouldn't be giving foreign aid to anybody, but we particularly should not be giving foreign aid to countries that don't even like us. But frankly, I think that we really need to cut every foreign aid that we don't consider absolutely necessary, except of course for the morally required foreign aid. When there's an emergency, that you have to do.
That's a good response. That's a good response. Tina, what's your feeling about that? Should we give foreign aid to countries that don't like us?
No. If they don't like us, then I don't know why we even bother with them. But I do agree with Jenny as far as in a case of an emergency. That's different.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no.
Okay, just so you know, it was Brian and Jenny that said an emergency. Paula said let them all die. She didn't give a fuck if it was an emergency or not. John Drake had a point. He said...
I never said that, an emergency.
He said, I know. No, you said let him go. Just forget it. John Drake... No, Paula didn't say it, and I certainly don't mean it. I don't mean it. John Drake said, I don't think it's possible for a country to hate us because the population of a country is made up of many different people and different ideas. We know them as individuals. North Korea may be the only country with a collective mind state, but still you are going to find amazing people there that don't want to be there and are trying to escape it daily. Foreign aid is a necessity in certain situations because in the end, it's not about the government of a country, but humanity itself. So, what do you think of that? Brian, what do you think of that?
Well, I actually agree substantially. It is possible for a government, at least, to hate us, but the extent to which they actually are the manifestation of anti-American sentiment is always debatable. That's what we have intelligence operatives. That's what intelligence.
We know. We're gonna finish that. Intelligence operatives. That's what they are, Jenny. So that didn't change any thought about anything at all. We're broke. We can't afford it.
No,
Pretty much.
Okay, Paula, you're saying nope. Didn't change your opinion.
I'm sorry. First of all, Lisa, most of that aid, it doesn't get to the people anyway. It's taken by the government, and they use it against us. Wake up, people. Get your head out of the sand. Where do you think that money's going? It's going into weaponizing themselves against America. So that's absolutely, yes, I agree that governments can hate America and the people not so much. I agree with that. But when we send aid, let's say to Iran, the people aren't getting that aid. It's going to these crazy mullahs and clerics that want to kill us. Kill us, period. And there are lots of countries that the government and the people hate us. Make no mistake about that.
Okay, I'm not, and I have to echo Jenny's words. We're a broke nation. We can't afford it. Stop being big shots. All right, so we're gonna go into an airport security question, and the question was, how should we handle airport security? Should ethnic profiling be allowed? What would you do to enhance bless you, Jenny,
Thank you.
or better our airport security? Well, Ivonic Issue says, I believe people should be patted down more invasively. Now, we know that she was joking around, and actually her and Jock had a whole debate here, which was a little silly, and I kind of redirected them, telling them that we might joke around, but we do want, some serious posts. So, basically, what it came down to was, we got Barbara, and Barbara said, ethnic profiling is never a good idea. And just to remember, Jock, that there were in fact men that blew up those planes. There wasn't any women involved in that. And Jock's answer to the girls debating back and forth was that they were very narrow-minded broads. What a heck of a thing for a guy to say, eh? So I'm going to go ahead and Angie Perry said that they need to hire her. And Paula, you had something to say about this, so go ahead, Paula. You definitely had something to say.
Is political correctness is killing our country, and we're more worried about offending some sort of ethnic group rather than keeping our people safe. Now, Israel racially, or as I should say, ethnically profiles at their airports, and they've never, let me repeat that, never had an incident. I think that speaks volumes. And patting people down, seriously? I mean, come on, people. No, we need to start ethnically profiling and worry more about saving our people, saving Americans, than offending somebody.
Oh, so let me ask you this, Paula, and I'm just going to jump in here. Brian's not on. Jenny might be opposite this, but I just want to say that we've had buildings blown to bits, and they've been by Americans. We've had movie theaters blown, people just blown up by machine guns, and they were Americans, and they were Americans, right?
Okay, true, but tell me who boarded planes and flew into buildings. Americans?
Well, Paula, no, in that case, you're absolutely right.
We're talking exclusively airport security now.
Right.
I mean, there are domestic terrorists,
Absolutely.
But we are talking about exclusively airport security, and Israel ethnically profiles, and they've never had an incident, ever.
Okay, so Jenny, what's your feeling?
I think as soon as you start ethnically profiling, you're actually creating a worse situation because while you may say, well, this group over there, they're a problem, maybe it's true, but all they need is one sympathizer who doesn't match your ethnic profile to sneak right past you. And if you're concentrating on those people over there, whoever they may be, whether they're Arabs or, whatever your ethnic profile is this week, if you're concentrating over there and say I'm white, well, I am white, kind of fat, don't really look like the kind of person who would be a terrorist. Let's say that they recruit me. They only need one me. I strap on whatever it is and I walk on through, and they're busy looking over there at them and they're ignoring me. So
But
I
Jenny,
think my point is my point is that if you're worried about security, you need to look at every single person as if they could be a terrorist. Now your turn.
That's a good point. Go ahead, Paula. Respond to that, and Brian and Tina will catch up with you in a minute.
I'm not suggesting that the only thing that we do is ethnically profile. We've got to use a variety of methods, but let's face it, who blew up the buildings, the World Trade Center? Who flew into the buildings? Who hijacked the planes? Radical Muslims. Who has a war against America? Radical Muslims. So
right.
Who are we? But you know what? This goes further than airport security. This goes into immigration and keeping our borders open. And now the terrorists are working with the Mexican drug cartels, and they're coming into the border. I mean, this is way bigger than just airport security. But the point is, if ethnically profiling could thwart one terrorist plot, to me, that sells it. That sells it. If it prevents one loss of American life, that sells it.
Okay, so hang on a second. I'm going to hit Tina. Tina, do you think we should have ethnic profiling?
I, first of all, am terrified of flying. So whatever we have to do to make it safer, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Everybody. I don't look at everybody, but it doesn't matter to me. If it's making us safer, do it.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Brian.
Yeah, I have two questions, first of all.
The topic is airport security.
How can the Israelis profile ethnically when so many Israelis look pretty Arabic? That's first. Second, if we're going to do ethnic profiling in this country, then that leaves the Aryan-looking Jihad Johns and Janes, and there have been a few already, to sort of slip through. I mean, my question is, how much real utility is ethnic profiling?
Paula, I'm going to let you answer that.
Utility seems questionable to me.
Well, Brian, what Israel does is they use a variety of techniques. They do background checks. They're very, very thorough. Very thorough. They have never had an incident of terrorism at their airports. Never. And they're very, but Israel is head and shoulders, ahead militarily. I mean, they really are. They really are. Think about it. Smallest military in the world, fiercest military in the world. And they just have such, I'm sorry?
He's questioning if they're the smallest.
They're the smallest and the most fierce. I mean, Brian, come on. Israel.
The fiercest, yes, I know.
Yeah, they're very small, but come on. Israel is the size of New Jersey, but they have a very, very complex, thorough screening system in place that they use at their airport. And it's proven, 100%, because they've never had an incident. And like Tina said, we need to do everything that we possibly can to make sure that we are safe when we're flying, that we are protecting our people. Our people. We didn't start this war. It wasn't us. Okay? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that we should have one loss. It was absolutely crazy that these hijackers could hijack these planes and blow up. I mean, kill 3,000 Americans. It's mind-boggling.
I would agree with that, Paula. I mean, I would. Brian, you had your mouth open. Did you have something to say?
I was thinking what I heard. I was thinking of what I heard certain members of the Bush administration actually knew about this sort of thing beforehand.
Oh, please, a truther. We have a truther, folks.
Oh, I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm just.
We have a truther, but you can't be a birther, but you can be a truther. Just remember. Bush knew, right? Bush knew.
Oh, Bush? No, not Bush. No.
Cheney.
No.
Who knew? Cheney?
Possibly.
Condoleezza?
Cheney. Darth Cheney, I wouldn't.
I have it on good authority that I have Davy Seal right here, and Davy said that Bush did not know. Did Bush know? No, he didn't.
Oh, I agree with Davy. I absolutely agree with Davy about Bush. Anyway.
So who knew, Brian? Who knew?
I would put even money on Cheney knowing. I'd put even money on it.
Okay, so there you go on that one. All right, so now that just leads us right into the other question on the Facebook wall about racism. Is racism on its way out of the country? Yes, no, or why? I'm sorry, yes or no, and why? Keith wrote, actually, so long as people play the race card and use it as a club against people who may have never committed a racist act in their lives, racism is fueled. John Drake says, no, as long as you have people who are ignorant or mentally ill, you'll always have racism. Ivana Kishu says, yeah. Alex says, no, it's not. Have you seen the stupid posts from the people about the election? Racism is far, capital F, capital A, capital R, from over in this country. And Barbara says, the question was not, is it on its way out? I would say yes. Years ago, biracial marriages were illegal. Now it's commonplace. Neighborhoods and schools were segregated. Now they're not. So slowly it is on its way out. It's far from gone, but it's on its way. What you have brought up, says Doug, is more like an improvement in society's ability to accept racial diversity, for lack of a better phrase. Rather than a decrease in racism, you will always be hating one race against the other race. So, that's just a bit of what he says. Brian, right away, you kicked in on this. So, in your opinion, is racism on its way out in this country?
On its way out, no. It's on the run, more or less. It's more or less on the run, and it has received some, thankfully, serious body blows lately. But on its way out, that's kind of difficult for me to say. As a matter of fact, there's a case before the Supreme Court right now by which they may well strike down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. If they do that, I think we may be seeing a resurgence of racism. So everybody keep your fingers crossed.
Why do you say that, Brian? Why would that cause a resurgence of racism?
Because it might open the way for...
I don't know what happened.
Localities, including St. Tor, had to, justify the changing of voting regulations, before the Department of Justice, I guess. That they won't have to make the same justification, which means you won't see poll taxes returning, but unless the Supreme Court says that, the cost of getting IDs and so on is a hidden poll tax, which I personally...
Wow, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, Paula, what do you got? What do you got? Jump on it, Paula.
Racism...
Anyway, without that, unless the Supreme Court says that, you might well see new hurdles to having everybody voting in these localities and others.
Well, Brian,
against that.
okay, if requiring an ID to vote is a hurdle, that's a necessary hurdle. That's absolutely ridiculous. You need an ID to rent a video at Blockbuster, but you're going to vote for the President of the United States and not require an ID?
Nobody has a right.
Let me finish.
Nobody has a right to rent a video at Blockbuster. We're all supposed to have a right to vote.
Ryan, let me finish. Okay. Racism is definitely not dead in this country. Here's the caveat. It's alive on both sides of the aisle. There is white against black racism. There is black against white racism. Yeah. The difference is, no, wait a second. The difference is, I'll tell you a couple of recent instances of racism in this country. When I went to vote in this election, just like when I voted in the last election, there were 4-hour waits. And I've never seen, it was crazy lines. I have four black friends. They told me that their father has never voted. All 4 of my friends said, once 3 of them, their father, 1 their mother. They've never been registered to vote until Barack Obama ran. Then they went to register just so they could vote. Now, if that's not racism, I don't know what is. If all of a sudden Harvey Gefilte Fischowitz decided to run for president, and I decide I've never voted in my life, and I'm going to go run and register to vote so I could vote for Harvey Jaime Gefilte Fischowitz because I'm president, I myself am playing the race card because I am only voting because it's somebody who is Jewish. I would never do so. I loathe Joe Lieberman, okay? That to me is racism. Now, another example of racism. There is no, I know I said this last show, but I'm going to say it again. If we had a white candidate that was sitting in a church that was led by an anti-black, anti-Jewish, anti-American, white reverend, let's say David Duke, they wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell of even running, let alone getting elected, as Barack Obama did. That's because we have this reverse double standard in America that white on black racism is repugnant, it's disgusting, it's not allowed. But on the flip side, it's almost socially acceptable. And I'm not saying, look, racism is wrong, no matter how you slice it, no matter who it's by. But every type of racism, period. Yeah. And I'll tell you what needs to go. Affirmative action needs to go. In and of itself is a very racist program that promotes racism, and it needs to go.
Okay, so Paula, I just have a quick question because I just want to ask, why is what you're saying now any different than what was said in the last segment? I mean, when you were talking about the airport security and all that, and the racial profiling, I mean that's kind of almost hypocritical to what you're saying now.
Well, explain. What do you mean why?
Well, because you believe in racial profiling as far as airport security, am I right?
Well, ethnically profiling. I'm saying yes, absolutely ethnically profiling. Because Lisa, look, the point is, if all of this, if all of a sudden, neurotic Jews who had a propensity towards lox and bagels started blowing up airplanes, I would have no problem having to be screened when I went to take a flight. Okay? Period. It's not hypocritical at all. It's apples and oranges. Okay? Apples and oranges. I'm talking about keeping the lives of Americans, keeping us safe. And I'm not saying racially, right? It's really ethnically profiling. And if you have a certain, group that is perpetrating most of these crimes, then you need to take a look at it.
Okay, Brian.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I wanted you to comment on what Paula said. I mean, what do you think about what Paula said? Well, let me go to Jenny. If you're not, I thought you were ready to respond. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
To that particular matter,
because I'm right. can't think of anything because I'm right.
Because I still believe that I'm not sure how much value ethnic profiling has because, again, you have the jihad.
Well, Israel does it, and they've never had an attack, and they never one.
Yo, he's talking about I'm sorry, that was my bad. Were you talking about you were talking about racial profiling as opposed to affirmative action? Because she kind of started a whole thing on affirmative action.
She sort of took a turn somewhere.
Yeah, so I guess I was hopeful that you'd respond on the affirmative action, Brian.
I will. I think affirmative action sort of needs to be switched 90 degrees. The basis of it should not be race as such, but class. I think a kid from Appalachia who may have fought against as many obstacles as anybody from the ghetto
Looks like we're having problems with
a reservation chant with them, and hence, like I said, basis of affirmative action needs to be class rather than race.
Why? I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry. When you have people that have rose from nothing, that have picked them up from their bootstraps and have made it through their merit. I'm sorry. You know what? You earn your earn your accolades.
We want to get more people rising. Affirmative action is supposed to be about.
No person, no ethnic group should get a leg up for any reason. Let me tell you something, Brian. I'm sorry, but I have my grandparents came here from Romania. They didn't speak any English. My grandfather from Russia. They came here with nothing, and they never took a handout in their lives. They made their own way. They provided for their children, and that's how they did it. And you know what? There is no reason that any ethnic group should get a leg up. Period. And you know what? When a black man has been elected as our president, not once but twice.
You weren't listening to me.
That's not an argument. Against affirmative action, I don't know what is.
Hang on. Go ahead, Brian.
I don't think I'm getting through for some reason. I said to switch the basis of affirmative action from race to class. That's not giving any race or ethnic group necessarily a leg up. It is, however,
class. What is class?
Otherwise, disadvantage the leg up.
So somebody in Appalachia has had more obstacles should get a leg up over some. No, why?
Jenny's got something to say. Jenny got her hand up. Jenny. Affirmative action. We're on affirmative action, Jenny.
Well, I'm going to tell you a quick story about my grandmother, who is now dead. I think she was born in 1906 or 1907, something like that. Anyway, back in those days, by the way, rural country, she was the youngest of 13. And in those days, girls, were required to take home ec in school and in high school in order to graduate. Boys took something else, of course, because, back in those days, men and women, it was okay to tell them they had different academic requirements. And the home ec course that she took, that all of them took, required a materials fee. And they let her take the class without paying the materials fee up front because she was very poor, but they would not allow her to graduate. Now, that materials fee was 17 cents.
Wow.
And she was, 17 cents was more than it is now, but it was not a big fee.
Right.
But she was not able to get the 17 cents from her parents at any point during the 4 years of high school. She actually got a full scholarship to a school, which she then had to lose because she was unable to afford 17 cents. Now, to me, 17 cents would have made a huge difference in the rest of my grandmother's life.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, that if affirmative action meant giving her 17 cents, I would say I would definitely have been for it.
Yeah. Jenny, why should I understand what you're saying, but that's not what affirmative action is. That's not what it is. Affirmative action imposes that you have to hire X amount of women, X amount of people of color, that's what affirmative act, it's basically quotas. And I'm sorry, but you can't, you know what, if you're gonna, how could you choose which minority and exclude others? It's not.
That's the point of what I'm saying.
No, Brian, I understand what you're saying, class, but that's still, why should somebody that's, let's say, in Appalachia, like you cited as an example, that's, had a harder life and more obstacles than, let's just say, some, Manhattan debutante. I'm sorry. It's everything in this life should be based on merit. Merit. That's it.
Well, it takes a lot more to come from the hills of Appalachia and get somewhere than it does if you are a Manhattan debutante.
I don't believe that.
There's plenty more merit, I think, in that.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
Oh, a Manhattan debutante inherits merit, does she?
Brian, I understand what you're saying, but no, I'm sorry. I mean, look, you hear stories of somebody who came here from a third world country that couldn't speak or write English, and they rise to prominence and they make it on their own through merit. I am against any kind of program that imposes a leg up for anybody just based on, what they were born into.
How far they've come?
No, not based on, no, Brian, that's not what I'm saying. I respect anybody who earns it on their own with their own merit, not by virtue.
On our own, none. No one's
I'm sorry?
entirely on their own.
Absolutely. Oh, okay, Barack Obama.
Okay, well, I'm going to get Tina in here real quick. Tina, are you for or are you against affirmative action?
Okay. I agree with Paula in the sense that nobody should get a leg up. It should be completely on who's qualified. And I wouldn't want to get a job or a position just because I'm a woman. I would want to be hired because I am qualified for that job. I'm the most qualified person for that job.
Well and good.
Okay, so Brian's got a comment on that. That's well and good, Brian says, but...
Well, no, but necessarily. Or if it is a but, it's a sort of sideways but.
I don't want to close my eyes, buddy. I don't want to close my eyes. Okay.
Well, I'm saying perhaps I come from a group which for a long time had positions they weren't entitled to. I wonder how many of them ever thought they weren't entitled to that. There might be somebody who was female or colored or whatever who might be more qualified. But no. I wonder how my dad used to ask himself that. But my dad was a very singular man.
Okay. Paula had her hand up.
I just need to address Brian's comment. None of us do it on our own. Of course we do. Just like when Barack Obama said nobody built that alone. What? Of course we accomplish things on our own. We all do it.
We all accomplish things on our own, yes.
So what did you mean when you said we don't? Nobody accomplishes. We all need help. What does that mean?
Well, we didn't build the schools on our own, for starters.
We didn't what?
We did not. You and I.
I'm not talking. Okay, Brian. Listen.
We didn't build.
I built the school.
Bridges.
I built the bridges. No, Brian. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, in your own life. When I went to college, I earned an academic scholarship.
All right.
On my own.
Yeah, you did.
You know what? I'm not a member of the Lucky Sperm Club. My father wasn't rich. So guess what? I had to work my butt off in school so I could earn an academic scholarship, and I did it on my own.
Yes, you
And I
did.
didn't get it because I didn't get it because
But you had a school to go to, which was free and public, right?
You mean when I went to high school?
Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
No, she was talking about college right then.
That's paid by our taxpayers.
Exactly.
It's not free.
Exactly. And taxpayers, hence taxpayers support the school at which you could buy your own.
Okay. So actually, the taxpayers sent me to college. Come on, no, that's, you know what? This is like some twisted
But they provided the launching pad for you to go to college.
Brian.
Hang on a second.
The rocket. Yeah.
We got somebody to spice it up. Tina, what's up? Talk.
Okay, I have a brother who has put himself through college all the way. He worked his ass off from the time he was a kid, and he did everything on his own. Nobody gave him a handout. Nobody gave him a leg up. Nobody did crap for him. He did it all on his own. He is now the principal of the school that we all went to school to, and he's the superintendent of schools.
Amen, bro.
He did it all on his own.
He had a free public school to go to.
That's not the point. The point is, nobody gave it to him because, he was whatever. He did it himself. He worked his ass off to get to where he is today.
Brian, isn't it fair to say, Brian, isn't it fair to say we all have free public schools to go to?
True.
For the moment, we do. But
Brian, your logic is like, you know what? That would be like saying, well, I owe it all to my mother. She gave birth to me. Well, I owe it all to her mother because she gave birth to her. And actually, I owe it to the Smurf because when I watched TV, Big Bird, he was on TV and he taught me the letter N. I mean, come on. Or, actually, it's all Davy Seal because Davy Seal supports me.
Oh, my God. Where's Gumby?
our own efforts may be decisive, but we all have plenty of other people to thank.
Okay, so Brian, let me just get this clear. What you're saying is...
I just said it. Our own efforts may be decisive, but we all have plenty of others to thank.
Okay.
Well, I'll include them in my Grammy speech.
You do that, dear.
Jenny, you got anything that you'd like to add on this topic?
Karl Marx, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I'll go back to 17 cents. My grandmother was unable to have the life that she could have had. She was unable to accept her scholarship because she was so poor, or her parents were so poor, they couldn't give her 17 cents. If she had had different parents or richer parents, she would have gone to college. She would have had probably a totally different life. And I probably wouldn't have been born, but that's a different issue.
Okay, Paula has her hand up. Paula.
Hey, Jenny, I'll tell you a grandma story. My grandmother came from Romania, and she always would tell me this story because Jewish grandmothers, they want you to eat nonstop. And if you didn't finish everything on your plate, you got yelled at. So my grandmother would tell me this story when she was in Romania. Somebody gave her an orange once, and they were so poor and they never had food that she saved it because she just wanted to, relish the moment when she ate the orange. And she ended up saving it so long that it went rotten. It went rotten. So it was, she came to America with absolutely nothing, never took a handout from the government, never expected a handout. And she and my grandfather, they opened a butcher shop and they made a life for themselves and never expected any help from the government. And that's how it should be.
Okay, Jenny's got her hand up. So, Jenny.
Well, obviously, I'm not arguing with the fact that things can happen. I mean, my grandmother, she had a very successful career despite not being able to go to college. I mean, she did as well as a woman of her generation could possibly do without a college education. I'm certainly not saying that, her whole life was ruined. I'm just saying that 17 cents would have made a huge difference.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Tina, you got anything that you want to add?
No, I'm done. Thanks.
Okay. Paula, you got anything you want to add to it?
I don't.
Okay. That's our last topic, guys. Brian, you got anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. So you know what? We're going to end this week. We're going to end this week's show with a big thank you to everybody. Our thoughts and prayers do go out to everybody still suffering from the wrath of Hurricane Sandy. Hope you all get your power on soon and the nights warm up for you. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.